Welcome, friends, for this quarterly way of the Cherag. I'm so grateful to be with you. I'm Sára. This is Rahima. I think all of you know that. And today we are also going to hear from Cherag's Inanna and Aliela. Aliela is also a Siraj. And as always, we would like to start our time with the invocation of Piro Murshid Hazrat Inayat Khan. I'll put things in the chat window for you throughout the meeting, so you might want to have your chat window open. We'll start with the English invocation as it was originally given, and then I'll invite Aliela also to share it in Russian, if you like. So, towards the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of Guidance.
Единому совершенству любви, гармонии и красоты, единственно сущему, объединяясь со всеми просветленными душами, которые образуют воплощение Мастера, путеводный дух.
Amen. Thank you, friend. Okay, so our theme for this way of the Cherag is spiritual ancestry. And that can mean so many things to so many people. And I expect we'll hear several different perspectives and ways of approaching that from all of our Cherag presenters today. And in particular, because all of our themes for these meetings are about how these things pertain to, how they are useful for our work as Shirags, our own development in our capacities, our connection with lineage, with teachers, and with the purpose of being Shirags, illuminated vessels of light for the betterment and the nourishment of the spiritual lives of our whole human family. So for this one, it feels to me, and probably to all of us here, that there's a great value, a confidence, a blessing, an energy, and a guiding light that comes from our spiritual ancestors, not just our biological family ancestors, not just the cultures and societies that we're raised in, and also not just the religious traditions that our families hold that influence our formation from early in our lives, but the spiritual ancestry of the teachers, the illuminated beings that we choose in our lifetime or that we recognize as having chosen us. That we each have a sense of responsibility, of honor, of integrity, of gratitude, and an opportunity to connect with those beings and the wisdom that they offered for us in our own ways to support our work and our soul's purpose. So I'd like to share with you a little bit of a reading, a passage from a letter from Piro Murshid Inayat Khan to his first murid and first murshida, Rabia Martin. And there are a whole lot of these letters, and this is part of one that feels relevant at the beginning of his work, of Piro Murshid Inayat Khan's work as a teacher trying to be of benefit to humanity. So this one is dated from September 1911. September 1911. This is very shortly after he met Rabia and initiated her. And so he's just starting to clarify his work and what the Sufi message might, the form that might take. So he said, "Now, by the favor of God, a few people here are initiated and are quite interested in this, and also those who were disappointed for years to gather by attending different societies and learning nothing. Some of them also are interested in Sufism, and now it is your duty to devote our health, wealth, heart, soul for this holy cause to advance Sufism in America. And it requires a very great help, being quite a strange philosophy and being in its infancy in America. And I myself and all your murshids in chain will be more pleased to see you doing your utmost to advance this holy affair at the sacrifice of everything that we possess. There is nothing that could satisfy our murshids more than if an order of Sufism is established in America, because they are not hungry for anything but one, and that is the satisfaction by the honest human service. America is spending such a lot of money by sending missionaries there in India who, instead of doing service, do harm to the people. If they just think to improve the religions and philosophic ideas of their own people by helping such a holy cause, it would be a great service of the God and much favor for humankind. With heartiest wishes and love, Inayat Khan. Now, he referenced America a few times in there, but as we know, he started his teaching in America and then wandered it back to Europe and wandered it to Russia and back to Europe and back to America, and he planted seeds for the service of the Sufi message and of the universal worship in all of these different countries and continents wherever he went. And it was really encouraging people to develop this light, this blessing, and this instruction wherever they are. So this is like, tend to your community where you are. Tend to the friends and family and loved ones that are in your home space, because that is where you have immediate influence and can make the greatest difference. Okay, so that's a good start, right? Now, from there, we're going to go to his prayers before lectures papers that I believe that I have given this to everyone who has gone through Cherag training with me. Prayers before lectures is a short set of papers that Murshid gave to Cherags in particular, saying, before you go and speak to the public in any setting, here's what you need to do. So this is an excerpt. This isn't the whole thing, but an excerpt that is. To concentrate before lecturing is the greatest thing, so you might impress upon the audience the wisdom you utter and draw their attention fully toward which you speak. By concentrating their minds through your concentration, to say prayers means to invoke your wisdom and also connects you with all the murshids in chain. Are you noticing the theme? All of these things are, it's not about you. It's about connecting in with the teachers, the lineage, the traditions, the wisdom school that informs and guides your work. This connects you with all the murshids in chain, and it inspires you to receive all wisdom from these sources and reflections from them. Not only this much, but when you are more developed, you will realize that the souls of your murshids in chain will be seen floating around you. And while lecturing, the atmosphere of the room, the audience, and yourself will be impressed, and a mood of ecstasy will pervade all. This is the sign of the murshids being around you. There are 3 ways before the lecture. Are you ready? Taking notes? No, it's being recorded, so you can watch it again later. First, hold thought of Murshid. Hold thought of Murshid. When you are perfectly accomplished and successful this way, then the second way is to listen to sound and not consider Murshid. I'm going to say more about that. But this cannot be done until you are so developed that the sound is always with you. This is better than the first. So if he were to put more words in here, I believe he would have said, the second way is to listen to the sound, to the atmosphere, to the living vibration of Murshid without needing to think specifically about Murshid. Okay, so it's not instead of Murshid, it's that you have put so much concentration and are so attuned to the awareness that you carry of Murshid that you can just rest in the atmosphere of just hearing his heart with you without trying. Okay, next, third way is to see Nuri Muhammad. This is the best possible way. And by practice, you advance to such an extent, whenever you want, you can close your eyes and see light, or Nuri Muhammad. Now, I think all of you are familiar with Nuri Muhammad, but I'll say a little bit more about it. That Nur is the light, Muhammad is the prophet, the messenger, and the reason that Muhammad is so celebrated and the ways that Muhammad is so celebrated in Sufi's perspective and in Murshid's perspective is that he's the living example of the most highly idealized human being, the most realized human being that is the potential that we all carry. So it's not that we worship a human being named Muhammad, it's that we see the example of what is possible within the human experience and the realization and the form of service, of devotion, of carrying the light of God to be of benefit to humanity to the fullest extent that we are able. And that's the example that Muhammad sets, and that's what we can all aspire toward through our practices, through our devotions, through our concentration, our attunement, and practices, especially before trying to give instruction to anyone else. Okay, there's a tiny bit more of this passage for you. The prayer and concentration forms an atmosphere of spiritual atoms and gives all inspiration for lecture. That is why all inspired people never think or arrange a lecture. It comes of itself. But you can depend upon inspiration when it satisfies you in your work, impresses your audience, and builds the atmosphere and gives ecstasy. That's all. Just this one simple task. Before giving lectures, providing a sermon, officiating a service, pray. Think of Murshid. Hear Murshid. Turn your heart and awareness toward Nuri Muhammad. And then let the inspiration flow with the charged atoms, the atmosphere that you have shaped and developed and strengthened around yourself, so that the impression you make will be beautiful. Okay, friends, all of those things were given to us as part of our spiritual inheritance from our spiritual ancestors, Puro Murshid Hazrat Inayat Khan. Okay, I am very pleased now to invite our friend Inanna to share some inspirations and practices with us. Thank you, Inanna. You're muted, honey.
Okay. Hi, good morning, beloveds. If you have a candle nearby, I would invite you to light it. Bring in that light. And I always start my day with the prayer Pure. It's my favorite prayer. So I would invite you to recite that prayer with me now. Inspirer of my mind, consoler of my heart, healer of my spirit, thy presence lifteth me from earth to heaven. Thy words flow as the sacred river. Thy thought riseth as a divine spring. Thy tender feelings waken sympathy in my heart. Beloved teacher, thy very being is forgiveness. The clouds of doubt and fear are scattered by thy piercing glance. All ignorance vanishes in thy illuminating presence. A new hope is born in my heart by breathing thy peaceful atmosphere. O inspiring guide through life's puzzling ways, in thee I feel an abundance of blessing. Amen. So we are just past Samhain, when in many traditions, that is when the veil between the worlds of the living and the dead are the thinnest. And though we're past it a few days, we can still connect easily with our ancestors, with our guides, whoever, through meditation and prayer. Our ancestors are like roots of a tree, and they anchor us to the past and they nourish our present so that they bring up that energy and that knowledge to the branches and leaves of the tree. And I kind of think about that there's people I don't even know about, but I know they're there like a tree, and I'm just a little leaf, thousands of years later. But honoring them and remembering them is not merely a sentimental act, it's a vital connection. It shapes our identity and it guides our future. And one of the sayings of Inayat Khan from the Gayan song, that Kala's an illuminated word, every person inherits from his ancestors not only his body, but his mind also. Through stories passed down through generations, if we're lucky that we know some of them, we learn about the struggles, the triumphs, and the values of those who have gone before us. These tales become a part of our DNA, whether they are blood relatives or just important spiritual people in our lives, shaping our worldview and inspiring us to persevere. By honoring our ancestors, we acknowledge the sacrifices they made, the paths they paved, and the legacy they left behind. Remembering our ancestors fosters a sense of community and belonging. It reminds us that we are not alone. We are part of a larger tapestry woven by those who came before us. This connection can provide comfort, strength, and a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. In honoring our ancestors, we honor the traditions, cultures, customs, and spiritual heritage they passed down to us. These traditions, often rooted in wisdom and resilience, connect us to our past and enrich our present. By preserving and practicing these traditions, we ensure that the legacy of our ancestors lives on. Ultimately, honoring and remembering our ancestors is an act of gratitude and respect. It's a way of saying thank you for their sacrifices, for their love, and their unwavering belief in the future. By carrying their torch forward, we ensure that their memory will endure and their spirit will continue to inspire generations to come. And I was at a Samhain gathering the other day that we're going to be making a tradition with some good friends of mine. We had an altar and we had our pictures, and we were talking about the movie, which I can't think of the title at the moment. It was an animated cartoon about the little boy who goes back to the past because there's a relative whose picture was torn up, and it's no longer on their family altar. And that's the only way they can remember people is by this picture. So if we don't have pictures, then we need to have words, we need to have memories so that these people live on. Um, a question I often ask myself is, how will I be remembered as an ancestor, or will I be remembered? I don't have any children. I'm not very close to my nieces or my grandnieces and nephew. My brother and my aunt are aging. They'll be passing on soon. And a couple of years ago, I really started wondering, what about my past? And I took two different trips to Europe. I went to England, which is where all my mother's people are from, and I went to Germany, which is where all my father's people are from. And in England, I went to this little village where my great grandfather was born, and I was able to visit the church in that village. I couldn't get into it, and I couldn't find anybody to let me in, but it was an old Anglican church that now had Anglican and Methodist, and that was the roots of my family in Great Britain. And I imagine at one point in time they were Catholic, and then they became Anglican, and then they were Methodist. So they brought that Methodist tradition to the United States, and that's what I grew up in, was a Methodist church. And on my father's side in Germany, I visited two of his grandparents, one in Germany, one village which was now actually in Poland but had been Germany. And I was able to visit the churches that they had been raised in. And again, they were closed, but I could put my hands on the walls of two Lutheran churches, which I'm sure at one point in time they were all Catholic, but this Lutheran church was just hundreds of years old. And in both of these places, I was able to put my bare feet in the soil, in the grass, and I just felt like my whole body was singing, that I just felt this spiritual impact, this awareness of these people who came before me and what they did and what they endured, especially during the great wars of Europe and just what happened to them. And I realize most people won't have that opportunity, but I think we can connect via meditation, concentrating on an ancestor and asking them for their guidance, or simply just for their presence. And I'd like to do a short meditation now, if you would join me, to connect with an ancestor or an ancestor. They could be blood relatives, they could be a guide, they could be someone from our silsila, but just someone that you want to connect with. And if you have a candle, you can light your candle. And I'd like you to put your feet flat on the floor, close your eyes, and we're going to relax and take 3 deep breaths. So you'll take a deep breath, hold it, and let it out. So breath 1, again. One more. Now bring to mind either a specific ancestor or just open your mind to any who wants to come to you. And if you have questions, ask them if they have answers. They may not. And we're going to sit with them for a few minutes. Now let us say goodbye and give thanks and gratitude for this wonderful presence. Thank them for what they have contributed to the person that you are. Know that they are always with you. You can call on them at any time. Take a deep breath. Open your eyes. I'd like to read one of my favorite poems by Rumi, because whenever I read this poem, I think about keeping my mind open always to the connection between the worlds 365 days a year. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, I'm sorry, it chokes me up a little bit. The world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, and even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. Rumi is so amazing. So to end this little session here, I'd like to have you join me in a song. And I think Sára's going to put those words up for you. It's Ancestor Sky People. Probably most of you know this. Ancestor Sky People all here today, hear my heart's song, hear my respect, hear my love, hear my grateful tears fall. I am truly blessed. You are truly blessed. We are truly blessed. Ancestor Sky People all here today, hear my heart's song, hear my respect, hear my love, hear my grateful tears fall. I am truly blessed. You are truly blessed. We are truly blessed. We are truly blessed. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Inanna. Such beautiful reminders, invitations, and experience. Thank you so much. And now we'll hear from Rahima.
Good morning, good evening. It's interesting because I actually had in my notes something about that song because it's one of the earliest dances I remember, and going to the dances of Universal Peace 15 something years ago. And it's interesting because as I was singing this song, or as I was hearing it and singing it, and my tears were falling, and interestingly enough, I wasn't thinking about any ancestors, any actual like people from my past. And what the image that came to my mind and my heart was I was in a forest and I was singing to the trees. Because that's what felt like were my ancestors. And that's where I feel them, I guess. And yeah, if that's your if you have a connection with trees, and I love putting my arms around them and feeling their roots and feeling the strength that they carry and singing this song to the tree while you're hugging it. It's beautiful. I love it. So that's also in relation to where I find a lot of my sense of spiritual ancestry and strength and teachers and guides. And it's literally where, whether, all of even the human ancestors that we have, they they all return, all of their bones and ashes return to the earth and to all of the elements. And so that's definitely one of the best ways that I can truly connect with the ancestors and with their teachings, and where I find the strength to, be that light and that lamp in the world. And so my spiritual ancestry really is mostly rooted in paganism and Sufism, and how beautiful that they are very much aligned in some of the practices. And Anayat Khan, one of the most common practices he gave to almost all of his murids was the elemental purification breaths. Clearly connecting to these elements was an important practice, and it's a daily practice that we do every day at the noon Zoom, and I try to practice as well on my own. And so I'm going to lead us through those elemental breaths, but I'm also going to talk a little bit about how I feel the ancestry and strength of those elements as we breathe. So we'll begin with the breath of earth, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. And with earth, their bones, our ancestors' bones, are the earth that we walk upon, the soil that grows the food we eat. When I take in the food of the earth, it is becoming a part of my bones and my flesh. I'm carrying the ancestors in every step I take, every move I make, every note I sing. The trees that become our friends and share their wisdom, putting our arms around the trees, feeling their roots in my feet, feeling their love and strength infuse our bodies. Holding the precious stones, carrying them in my pocket, finding the chestnuts in the backyard of Anayat Khan's house, and carrying those with me. Wherever you find those treasures of the earth, they have the energy of our ancestors. And moving to the breath of water, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. The water that cleanses and purifies. The cycle of the waters that come down from the rain into the streams, the lakes, the water we drink that we then take within ourselves. It is who we are. It pulses through our veins, through our blood. Feeling that water as we sit in the rivers, the lakes, the ocean, sitting nearby, listening to the music of the stream, the bubbling brooks, and knowing that all of that water, including us and the water we are, eventually returns to the sky, to the clouds, to come down in the rain again. The cycle never ends. The water that our ancestors were drinking are also the water we're drinking. It is who we are. And then the element of fire, breathing in through the mouth and out through the nose. Feeling that fire of transformation, the fire that turns the dying plants into ashes, that then return to the soil, that we then use for fuel again to create more heat, more warmth, more fire. Lighting that light within us so that we can be lamps in the world. Feeling that light in our hearts, feeling that same sunshine that was shining upon our ancestors. And the breath of air, breathing in through the mouth and out through the mouth. The air we're breathing literally still has all of the atoms of all those that have gone before us. They're breathing the same atoms. We're breathing the same atoms they were breathing, the same air. That life energy, the breath, that is the life source, the spirit. They are within us with each breath. And we will be the ancestors, the breath, the water, the fire, the earth, that those that will come behind us will be standing upon, will be breathing, will be drinking, will be transforming and bringing the light. So what will you do in this body with these elements in this lifetime to honor the ancestors? I love the Amita Harvey song of "On the Bones of My Ancestors, I Stand in Truth." We're not going to sing that song today, but it would be a good one. Just remembering the strength. It's within us all the time, every day. It's so accessible, the elements all around us, and it is who we are. So. And another practice I'd like to bring us into in attunement with our Sufi lineage and that chain of strength and power with Inayat Khan and his first murid, as Sára mentioned, and thank you, Inanna. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, return, return. Exactly. So Rabia Martin was his first murid and first initiated Murshida. And so I feel a strong connection with those two in particular as spiritual ancestors. And there was a practice that Inayat Khan gave to Murshida, that Murshida Rabia Martin, that I want to lead us in. But first I'm going to read a little bit about this Daruj that he gave to her. And we find this in the letters that he wrote to her. The following mantra is called Darud. It is the best thing to recite in the morning. This is in the praise of the perfection of the nature in the form of matter and spirit, and this will create divinity, eminence, and give you spiritual power and devotion. After mastering this for a few days, I will guide you how to use it for different affairs. Recite 1,100 times every morning and keep incense burning. Because while you recite this, all of our beloved Master's souls will be around you with all love and devotion, respect and humility, and intoxication, as well as the great Master of the Sufis, Sarkar Muhammad, himself will send his reflection upon you as he sent on the Sufis like Shams-e Tabriz, Maulana Rumi, Sadi, Hafiz. The Sufi that is the author of Darud had performed great miracles in his life. With all love and best wishes, yours in the infinite, Inayat Khan. I love that he signed all of his letters, yours in the infinite. So this seems like a beautiful way to attune to the ancestors. As Inanna Khan said, if we recite this burned incense, all of the strength and love and devotion and humility and intoxication of the ancestors will be with us. So Sarah's putting it in the chat window here. There's a beautiful melody that Rashida Halima created for this Darude that I would like to lead us in singing together. But first I'm going to say a little bit more about the words. You can go ahead and, yeah. So Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alay Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barak ya salim. So Allahumma is, oh please God, a heartfelt supplication. Oh Allah, please would you. And the word sali is related to the word salat, which is the 5 times a day prayer, but it basically means shower blessings, but it's a very intimate, loving way of showering blessings. So sali, Allah means upon, and Sayyidina Muhammadin, as Inayat Khan was translating this a little bit in his letter to Rabia Martin, basically he translated it as the perfection of nature in the form of matter and spirit. So Sayyidina Muhammadin, it's our noble master, and wa means and, Allah is upon, and alay means family or our relations. It could be all of our relations in nature, our ancestors. And then it says Sayyidina Muhammadin again, our noble master, the perfection in nature. Barak is a word for blessing or grace. And then Salim or Salim is another form of salam, which is peace and security. So I think this might be a nice translation that I got from Sarah at some point that I like to put all this together is, O Allah, please send your abundant blessings of intimate union upon the perfection of nature in the form of matter and spirit, and upon the people of this path of perfection, blessings and peace. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alay Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barak wa salam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alay Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barak wa salam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alay Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barak wa salam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin Sayyidina Muhammadan wa bala alayhi Sayyidina Muhammadan wa barik wa salam. One more time. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadan wa ala alayhi Sayyidina Muhammadan wa barik wa salam. O Allah, please send your abundant blessings of intimate union upon the perfection of nature in the form of matter and spirit, and upon the people of this path of perfection. Blessings and peace.
I just want to celebrate for a moment that Inanna and Rahima and Aliela, who we haven't heard from yet today, well, other than the invocation, but you know, that these are the ancestors of tomorrow. So the generations yet to come will be able to go, Rahima, great, great, great grandmama in our ancestral line, brought us these reminders and blessings and practices and wisdom teachings. How beautiful is that? That what we get to do right now is the ancestral lineage that the next generations get to enjoy, benefit from, feel nourished by. Cool, huh? Okay, thank you, Rahima. Okay, so next we're going to spend a little bit of time talking amongst ourselves on some of these themes. And so after I explain what's going to happen and I'll introduce a few topics, then I'll pause the recording so we can just visit with each other and consider these perspectives, questions about spiritual ancestry. So because we're a sweet little group today, we won't go into breakout rooms. We'll just stay all together to be able to talk about some of these things for 10 or 12 minutes. We'll see. Not very long. So the considerations that I would like to invite us to hold together, to reflect in ourselves and then to share with each other are: what gifts have you received from your own spiritual ancestors? What are the gifts you have received from your own spiritual ancestors? I'll put these in the chat window after I read through them. Then, how do you personally actively tend to the living relationships with those who have gone before you? How do you work with those relationships? Then, in what ways can you honor your spiritual ancestors through your life and your work now? In what ways can you honor your spiritual ancestors through your life and work now? And finally, what are the responsibilities and service that you hold that was entrusted to you by your spiritual ancestors? Your responsibilities and service that have been placed in your hands by your ancestors. So I'll pause the recording and we'll take some time to share with each other.
Well, we were having such a rich conversation, not just conversation right now, but all the offerings, all the people who had sharing so beautiful things about ancestry subject. So for now, I feel like I'm so full and so empty about something to share. May my ancestors help me right now. But who they are for real. When I just was seeing the subject of our meeting, I was thinking and meditating who they are. For me, it's really difficult to separate, to make this thin line between our spiritual ancestors and our, I don't like that expression, biological ancestors, but you know what I mean. What we started with, like our families, societies, and cultures, environment. We have all of this in our blood, and it's influence our life and our imagination about life, and it's give us our first impression. And I think some of our real, like family lineage ancestors, they are both our spiritual ancestors too. We can learn so much wisdom, heart wisdom, from our grandmothers and grandmothers. But in some way, it's just, for many of us, at least for me, it's impossible to know that much about our ancestors. And for me, it's an organic way to tune for whoever behind my back. It's like call them out, just to be present. I know they are present. They are watching us from somewhere, and they protect us, and they give us their loving blessings. But if ever we can take a little moment during our busy life days and to say toward some ones we know their names and some ones we don't know their names, like, I remember you, I love you, I respect you, and I thank you. I think it's very useful practice, at least for me. And when I was a child, I tried to read the Old Testament, you know, the big book, which says that we all have the common ancestors because all people just came from Adam, descend from him. But each time that I got to the place, to the chapter where it was saying about fallen generations, like, it's very big chapter, like Adam begot Chet and Chet begot Ham, and this lived 800 years and that, and another 100 names and sons and daughters. I really could not stand it because it's really, you cannot remember, you cannot hold it. And I even did not have that curiosity to learn all these names. And then I felt that there is something behind those names, that our heart, our soul is remember. And when in our life we're meeting some living people sometimes, that we can recognize in them our spiritual friends or our just friends or our teachers, I think it's also our heritage. It's something that we don't know consciously from our spiritual or human biography, but it exists in our blood, in our some place of our unconsciousness. So, well, I call this maybe something like spiritual tribe that I belong to. And when we are on a Sufi path, in spite of, we can feel every teacher or every person from past as our ancestor. In particular, I think we can relate to all the Sufi people from all generations as our ancestors. and our spiritual friends. And it's really like a river of blessing, this caravan of souls that we belong to. And of course, the name of Hazrat Inayat Khan, we already dedicated to him today many words and love and gratitude. And I feel so much like I'm the member of his family. And we are all, I would say, we're all the members of his family. All people I see here on the screen, I consider as we're members of his family. And his living presence is so obvious in places he in particular was related to in his life and after his life. So well-known place at Dargah in Delhi, where he's buried. And after visiting this place, I think no one, well, maybe someone, but I hardly imagine that no one in doubt if, about his presence, his living soul presence there. And also his house in Holmes place in Surin in France, where we were very blessed to have been visiting just now, not long ago. It's something in the air that we can experience, even not in very esoteric way, but it's some link of love that connecting us with our, fathers and grandfathers and grandfathers and mothers of now spiritual way. So I don't know, maybe the music will be good to offer here, because we're talking about Inayat, and he was a great musician and great poet. And in particular, I so appreciate his gift of prayers. So we know he left many prayers. Each one is like such a good remedy, such a good practice and way of awakening our soul, awakening our heart. So there's two lines from one of his prayers, which named Khatum, and it sounds like, open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly comes from within. When I'm hearing this line, when I'm praying this line, in some ways I feel that we can hear thy voice. We're talking about God, but his voice going through the voices of our ancestors, going through the presence of our ancestors. And in the same way, the next line, disclose to us thy divine light, which is hidden in our souls. This light has been opened so much for us through our ancestors, and still been living in us, in our shells, through our ancestors. So feel free to follow me with the singing, with the love and gratitude for whoever in front of you, of your inner eyes right now, as your spiritual ancestors and your family, your tribe, your circle. Open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly comes from within. Open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly comes from within. Open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly comes from within. Open our hearts that we may hear thy voice,
See? The ancestors of tomorrow are pretty awesome. Thank you, Aliela. All right, in our last 13 and a half minutes together, I have a little more Murshid for you. Some blessings, some reminders, some gratitudes. And I think we'll add another song in the mix as well. First, along with these beautiful prayers that Puro Murshid Inayat Khan offered for our 3 times a day practices, including Khatum at the end of the day, as it is for some of you on that side of the globe, that these lines came from, that Aliela just so beautifully shared with us in song. There are affirmations that he offered to be recited 3 times a day. And the morning affirmation, for those of us on this side of the globe, and that is really the affirmation that feels so beautifully relevant for Cherags, is, may the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. And this is a little bit tricky because many of us have some associations about ways that people have tried to spread their message in ways that have not been harmonious or kind or respectful. And so it's important for us to remember that in Murshid's way of saying, spread the message of God, he does not mean by going to places where we are not invited or by sharing in ways that are not explicitly welcomed and overtly encouraged. That mostly what he talks about is developing your own inner peace, equanimity, compassion, the fountain of love that is available to each and every one of us. And when we develop ourselves into the greatest, most beautiful expression of our own humanness, that light and that beauty is contagious. It is more contagious than any negativity. And we spread the message of God by shining our own perfected, polished hearts as brilliantly and purely and courageously as we possibly can. And that is the essential work of a Cherag. So please join me in reciting this affirmation from Murshid. May the message of God spread far and wide 11 times. May the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. There are 2 little blessings that they're not hidden, they're in plain sight, but that are embedded in the letters that Murshid wrote to his beloved Murid, Rabia. And both of these blessings, they're short little things, I believe are entirely relevant and useful for all of us here today. So I would like to offer one of them right now and maybe the other one at the very end. First one, he wrote this one in 1912, so 1.5 years after having connected with this beautiful student. May God give you all the hope and courage you need to accomplish your undertakings. May all the Murshids in chain bless you for your faith and goodness. Okay, now we're going to sing. Thank you, Aliela, for bringing the reminder about the Hebrew Bible. This is a song, a prayer, a blessing from the Hebrew Bible. And I don't know if we're going to sing all of it, but we're going to sing at least the first 2 parts of it because this has been keeping me company a lot recently. And there are pieces of this in different places in the Torah, in the Old Testament, and there are some references that are kind of important, I think. This was part of my childhood as well, and I think part of Rahima's childhood as well, part of many of our childhoods. And so we'll start with, Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you. Be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face toward you and give you peace. And then there's also some amens, some affirmations and blessings. And then the part that feels really important right now is, may his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. And remembering that this comes from many, many hundreds and hundreds of years ago, that these blessings started being spoken in this way, and, well, not in English, in Hebrew. They've been translated. And they continue on. I had to look today because I'm a little bit of a nerd. I was like, how long is 1,000 generations? 1,000 generations, because that's the reference that is given in the Hebrew Bible for 1,000 generations. Depending on how you calculate it, it's estimated that that means between 30,000 and 40,000 years. And then for reference, I also looked up how many generations are there between Adam and Jesus. Approximately 75 generations between Jesus and Adam, and approximately another 80 generations from Jesus to right now. So that's really not very many. That's 155 generations from Adam to us. So they're still going. The blessings are still happening. So, Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face towards you and give you peace. Again. Lord, bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face towards you and give you peace. One more time. Lord, bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen. 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 May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you and all around you and within you. He is with you. He is with in the morning, in the evening, in your coming and your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is for you. He is for you. Amen. 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 Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you. Be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face towards you and give you peace. I'll close with a final blessing from Murshid. This is also from the letters to Rabia, but today I offer it for all of you, for all of us. May all the Murshids in the chain help you, for it is their aim which you have undertaken as your life's work. Therefore, you may be sure that all divine strength and power is with you. Amen. Thank you, Aliela. Thank you, Rahima. Thank you, Inanna. And thank you, all you beautiful friends, for joining us today. We look forward to being with you again soon. Lots of love and blessings. Bye, friends.